Joyride 1957, Chapter 32A. James awoke in room 13 of the Valley Motel about 6:30 a.m. and peered out the window. His Fairlane was still in front of his room. He showered, shaved, walked out to his car and started it. He turned onto Highway 13 East and headed back into Wahpeton. Just before he got there, he saw a big reddish-brown house on the right side of the highway and a car sitting in front of it in a long driveway. "Must be a lawyer or a doctor," James said out loud. He turned into the long driveway and drove up to the house. He saw a big red Chrysler station wagon sitting in the drive next to the house. He decided he better grab it. He opened the driver door and was almost shocked to see the key in the ignition. It was a 1956 Windsor, and he started it up. The gas gauge read F, and he idled slowly out the driveway. Turned west on North Dakota Highway 13 and eased the big wagon up to 55 miles an hour. Drove 25 miles to Wyndmere and then turned south on Highway 18. He drove through Lidgerwood and on into South Dakota. The road turned into South Dakota State Highway 25 and he drove south up a long grade onto a long ridge which was the border of the Coteau des Prairies, a 200 by 100 mile plateau in northeast South Dakota which was dotted with sloughs and lakes. Another evidence of the French, he mused. The plateau had been named by early French explorers. Another half hour he arrived at his objective. He read the name Roslyn on the town sign as he drove in. Before he turned left onto Main Street, he saw another sign, hometown of Myron Florin. He knew of Myron Florin. He was the star accordionist of the Lawrence Welk Show, a top-rated musical hour on television. Florin was known as having the fastest hands in the world on the accordion. He wondered what else Florin's fast hands might be famous for. James drove a few blocks down Main Street and noticed another famous landmark of this town of Roslyn, South Dakota. On the left side of the street stood an old building with a sign out front stating it was the International Vinegar Museum. He parked the Chrysler but left it running. He went up to the door of the museum, but it did not open. He got back in the Chrysler and drove a few more blocks until the street ended. He then turned around and headed back up Main. There was a little community church, but nothing to indicate any early French history. As he drove out of town, he wondered why all these small towns seemed to be populated with Scandinavians rather than the French. He turned west toward Aberdeen and then north toward Bismarck, North Dakota. Back in Alexandria, all four couples slept in, all that is, but the tall man in the black suit that was aligned with the KGB. He was up and out of Veronica's room by 5 a.m. He walked across the street and handed the man seated in a black 1957 Ford sedan a $50 bill. He went west on 52. Police didn't catch him. The KGB agent went back to his 1957 green Dodge, the one with the Hemi, and drove out of town west on Highway 52. He knew where he would find James. It would be a 6-hour drive. Veronica went to the front desk at 9 and bought a copy of the Alexandria Echo Press. Once she read the lead story, she quickly went back to her room and packed her bag. She went to the front desk and asked if the man in the black suit had checked out. The clerk said yes. She then returned to her pale yellow Land Rover and headed west on Highway 52. Soon after, the twins AJ and BJ hopped in their T-Bird and caught up with her. They stayed back a mile or so and followed her up Highway 52. Misty slept for another hour, had some telephone sex with the CIA Assistant Director Davis, who she was now to call Lancer. She then had a big breakfast at Ma's, corned beef hash, 3 eggs over hard, hash brown, sourdough toast, and tea. She then dressed in a tight-fitting white dress, which is now tighter. She packed her bag, took it to the 1957 Coral over charcoal 98 Olds Holiday Coupe, fired up the engine and squealed the tires as she left the Lakes Manor Hotel. When she got on to highway, she put the hammer down. When the needle hit 100, she kept it there. The first spectacular figure did not get her out of a possible ticket Her CIA credentials certainly would. Besides, the Alexandria patrolman was no doubt fast asleep in his little bed after a night of high-speed drama. Within 2 hours, by the time she reached Fargo, North Dakota, just across the state line from Moorhead, Minnesota, she had caught up with her girlfriends.